My little plan.
All right. And we are live. Welcome to the BrainDrive weekly development call. At BrainDrive, our mission is to make it easy to build, control, and benefit from your own AI system. I'm Dave Waring, and I handle the operations side here at BrainDrive.
And I'm David Jones, and I handle the technical side of the house.
Awesome. So we're switching up the format a little bit this week. We used to start with celebrations and challenges, but after watching the videos that I was out on, Dave did a good job, I thought, of switching it up a little bit and really just focusing on the development updates. And we do have so many updates now that that really is kind of the celebrations, and we can address any challenges and celebrations as a part of that. So
Yeah.
with that, I'll hand it over to you, Dave, to talk about what we accomplished this week.
Well, I will start with, instead of showing the screen first, we'll go with I guess the verbal part of this, because it's more than just me. We have several different developers doing different parts, which takes a lot off my plate. Allows me to focus on certain things. And then if a larger issue that where a group type think tank needs to find a resolution, we were able to get a little bit better into that. And that was good to see. And hopefully we'll find out after this call how productive that was. And I believe I noticed after working on it and trying to help solve that problem, at least on my development server, it ran kind of a bit smoother for me. So I was kind of like happy to see that those changes, at least for me, worked out well. And from him, because as everybody knows, the developer says, "Oh, it works on my machine," or it doesn't work. In his case, he experienced issues that I didn't have. So we'll go
Yeah, and
through
we're
that.
talking about Beck,
Back.
our
Yep.
developer Beck that we're working with, and the chat with documents plugin that he's building, which is going to allow you to upload documents and have project-like functionality within
Yep.
BrainDrive, and getting that so you can not only use it, but it just starts up when you start up your BrainDrive, correct?
Yeah, yeah, exactly. And it's more, and the piece he's working on is more than just chat with documents. He's actually building part of the core out. He's building part of the installer so that not only can a developer create a plugin, but now they will be able to create a microservice in Docker. That's our current emphasis. And it will start up a Docker container. If you have some specialized server that you do not want to mess around with the core and play around with, or let's say like Siri NG, it already exists for you. You just start up Docker in that, and there where you can just leverage that functionality. And BrainDrive, if it's working, will start that up for you. You don't have to worry about it as a user. You start at BrainDrive, it takes care of the small servers for you, gets them up and running, and then when you shut it down, it shuts down for you. And that's the key part.
So basically, in addition to getting chat with documents
Yep.
functionality or this project-based functionality where you can basically have a specific page in BrainDrive which is just anchored to whatever documents you've
Yep.
given it in terms of the chats, which is a big feature that we've seen people using and requesting in other AI systems. The work that we're doing with this will also allow you to connect to anything in Docker pretty
Yep.
much, right?
Yeah, yeah. Which, and they have MCP servers on Docker. It's been a big push for them. We're also going to expand our microservices to handle both FastAPI or Python, and MCP, because hell, there's excuse my hell, there's what, 2,000 plus MCP servers sitting out there by major companies, by small developers, and then some you can develop yourselves.
Yeah.
So to leverage that kind of effort, it would go a long ways because it just makes BrainDrive extremely stronger.
And this is another example of us building bridges that set
Yep.
you free with BrainDrive instead of walled gardens that lock you in like big tech companies do.
Yep. Exactly.
Cool.
Practice what you preach type thing.
Yep. All right. What else? What else is going on
um,
this week? Or
let's go to,
from last week,
yeah, from
rather.
last week. Let's go with the little share screen. Screen. Which one is my share? Oh, we're going with that one. Okay, beautiful BrainDrive.
There we
Let's see.
go.
Let's go to the roadmap first to see. Yep, okay, we did make a few. I made a few changes to this. We have cleaned house on the top four last week. I did some figuring out some issues that we had to clean up. One which we had already put down there, but I just didn't annotate it well, but is improving the registration. I took care of the hardening last week, which we'll get to in the press release or push release, pull release. There you go. And also the Ulama AI provider. I found a small issue in that, in the fact of most of us haven't experienced it, but I run multiple Ulama servers, and when I did that, I noticed it wasn't handling multiple servers that well, and it just caused an issue. So I have to clean that up. Every other user hasn't found it because they just run one. But that'll take nothing more. That'll be easy. I'm not really worried about that. By the end of the day, that'll be cleaned up and be moving forward. And then I have a
Are
plan
you
for
gonna
hand.
do the? Are you putting the one-click installer in point six?
It's been in point six. I didn't change it. But I don't think that's going to be in point six when we get there because it's only 2 weeks away. It's just probably, I will know everything when I get this week, when I get to the bounce. If I can if my plan that I have now working on the bounce works well, I will have a week extra time and I'm going to go right into the installer.
Yeah, okay, because that would be great to have the installer working
Exactly.
with
Both
it.
for
Even
develop.
if it's just Windows, I think
Yep.
that that's a big deal.
Well, yeah, because most people are on Windows, and that will start testing it, bulletproof it, because most of the code is works on any OS. It's just the little differences between Mac and Ubuntu or Linux. So it's just it'll as soon as we're on one OS and we can start to harden that, it'll just carry over to the other OSs very quickly.
Okay, so in terms of work accomplished from last week, getting all the plugins, we originally when you built the system, you included the plugins in the main repo and it installed with BrainDrive just to get us kicked off.
Hmm.
And then, but the plan was always to
Be where
have
we are.
yeah, have all these plugins moved out and installable via the installer, whether you want to put a GitHub link in there or whether you want to upload, a zip file and have it
Yep.
installed. So all of the plugins are out of the main repo
Yep.
now and on their own repos, and that's a big deal because
Yep.
that really cleans things up. And also, that was a major point of confusion for community developers when they went on the platform. Is like, what's the old plugins and how do they work? What's the new plugins and how do they work? So that
Now
was
there's just one way.
yeah, which is great because that really makes it easier to build on top of Brain Drive, which is one of our big things. Make it easy to build
Yep.
on
Yep.
your own AI system.
And the
So
second half of my improved registration, I took care of hardening in this release, which is mostly the back end work. Now I want to have messages carry over to the user. If you have the wrong password, if your password's not strong enough, those kind of things, it needs to alert the user to what's going on better. And it's just not there. I'm guilty of this and most developers are. You code it, you go through selective muscle memory on code on registration. You don't think of these things, but now we're getting ready for prime time. We have to think of these things.
right.
So the user needs to know what's going on, especially during registration and login, because if they can't get past that, odds are they won't touch anything else. So
Okay.
that's why I'm spending a little
Cool.
more time there. And like I said, this is all easy stuff now. All the hard stuff's there. So this and the providers I expect done today, and then move right into my plan for bounce.
Okay. So before we get to this week,
Yep,
also from last week, we now have two um, model match videos
yep,
live on our YouTube channel. So, excuse me, this is a pain point that Dave identified early on in our process was people are constantly asking what's the best open source model for me to use for XYZ. So we decided to launch what we're calling BrainDrive Model Match, which there's a lot of benchmarks and um, arenas and all of this that are really focused more on researchers. We're really focused more on use cases, and also they're really focused on kind of help giving you the information you need to go through and the millions of models and figure it out for yourself. We just want to tell you what we think is best via and then show you our evaluation criteria and then give you the code even for the evaluator that we're
yep,
using so you can use it yourself. You can modify it if you don't like the way that we do it. So you can create your own evaluations. And we're really just coming right out and saying, okay, we know therapy is one of the top use cases for that people use AI for. So what are the best open source models. I'm not going to just play the video here.
Yeah.
You can go watch it on our YouTube channel or look at it in the forum. But basically, Navaneeth, who's leading this project for us, gives the three models he recommends, goes through how he came up with those recommendations, and then gives you a link to the forum here, which has all of the documentation in terms of how we came up with this. So this is new, these are our first two videos, but Dave and I both went through them and we're very pleased with this as a first crack at it.
Yeah, and for me, I just want to chime in on this one is one of the key things about this is I know anybody looking at the models he picks, they're going to be like, oh, what about this? What about this? What about that? That's why we're releasing so people can test themselves.
Right.
If you see a model out there that you think would be better, maybe based on your own personal experience, you read an article that said, hey, this is great for doing XYZ, you don't have to rely on that, and nor do you have to take old information. And this is the current situation that exists within the LLM community. You can take the model, you can take our code, and you can see how it matches up with what he came up with.
Right.
And if for some reason it's not asking the certain kind of questions that you like, as Dave pointed out, you can make a change. You can tweak it. You can play with it. You can make a suggestion in the GitHub and say, "Hey, can you consider this?" and all like that. So this provides the community with information that's currently not even close to being provided.
Yep, and this is MIT licensed, so we hope that you'll contribute to our open source project. And again, if you don't like us or you think you got a better way to do it, the code's yours. Go
Yeah.
take it, run with it. We really want to make it as easy as possible for people to choose the best model for their own AI system. And so we're going to work on that. We hope others will help us work on that. But part of that is also just building out a general community of people that are focused on
Yep.
this. All right, great. So that's Beck's stuff. When do we think we may have chat with documents this week, right?
We may, yes. We just have to wait to find out if the solution that we came up with on Friday is working after this call.
Yep. We're talking
Um,
to Beck right after this call, so
yep,
we'll know that and we'll post that in the forum and the chat with documents. We have threads for all of these projects in the forum. Okay. And then Navaneeth is going to be releasing a new model match system for a specific use case,
yep,
and video every Thursday going forward is our goal. So we should have something to talk about there each week going forward now. And then Matt is
yep,
he was working on search functionality for BrainDrive, and he made some good progress on that. But we paused him working on search and have him now polishing the BrainDrive AI chat plugin, which will be the default plugin for the chat interface in
yep,
BrainDrive, and improving the user experience for that. That way, people will have a default, but if you want to change that default or tweak ours or improve ours, like, you go
yep.
ahead and do it. It's all MIT licensed under
Yep,
the
the code will
BrainDrive
be there for
project.
people to play with. They can download it. They can, if you wanted to do XYZ, you can do XYZ. Then all we're doing is providing a good platform for both a user and a developer to start with.
Yep. And you can follow, here's the model match
Yep,
thread where Navaneeth and we are talking about that. You can chime in there. You can follow that, web search and what's been done on that, the chat plugin polishing, and then the chat with documents should be here as well.
it's
Oh, it's
usually
here at
on
the
top.
top. Yeah, he responded, which is
Okay,
good.
yep,
So we won't go through that right now, but that's a good start on a good sign on that. All right, great. So I think that's our full developers update. Why don't we talk a little? So for me, last week I finished up a white paper. I'm not going to read through that. I'm going to post this on the forum once I have a video to go along with it, which I'm working on this week. But just briefly, uh, so so basically, I wanted to just kind of put everything that Dave and I have been talking about for the last since I think we started working together in November of
yep,
last year. A lot of this, if you've been following our GitHubs and the forum, will not be new to you. But basically, what are we trying to do here? We're trying not just to build open source software, we're trying to build an entire user owned AI ecosystem so that, things do not centralize at other layers of the ecosystem as happened with the internet, right? The internet was supposed to be this decentralizing technology. it's become very centralized. So we want to avoid that and learn the lessons of the internet from the internet. So what does that mean? BrainDrive Core, that's our MIT licensed open core, modular architecture, all the stuff that Dave's been building, the page builder, that plugin based open architecture, all MIT licensed. This is what we talked about a little bit briefly at the beginning of this call. We're looking to build bridges here and not throw up walls. And then some of the new stuff, not new, we've been talking about this, but that I hadn't really crystallized yet, is really around building an open and free market economy and how the system that Dave's architecting allows that to happen, right? Once you don't have the lock-in and you have a modular, plugin based, and permissionless foundation to build on, which is what Dave's building, that facilitates an open and free market economy where value flows to those who are creating it instead of big tech companies who have locked you in. So this is, these big tech companies, that's not free markets. They're closed economies built on their platforms. They're captured economies. And that's why they're sucking up so much of the value. And BrainDrive and the system that Dave's architected is built as the key to unlock that. And then the community that goes around that, working together to improve their own AI systems, which also, because this is an open system, improves the user-owned AI community and competitive to big tech in general. Uh, and then how we're planning on funding the ecosystem. A big part of this, again, is the system architecture, which pushes everything out of the core, not everything, but most things out of the core. So we have a small core that we need to fund, and the free market can fund all the development because people are incentivized to build the plugins, features, and functionality on top of the system that Dave has built, and using the plugin architecture and the page builder, they fund it because they have the opportunity to make money doing it, and we're not extracting that money from them. Like we're facilitating that. So that's the biggest piece of it. But we still need a way to fund the core, fund people like Dave and me working on this, and other developers who are just focused on the core, which is where a lot of open source projects fall down. And Dave and I have decided that when you look at the projects that have been most successful, there usually is some centralization and for-profit funding around the core for people that are doing that. So we may move to a foundation or something like that in the future, but right now we have two mission-aligned founders, for the community, the co-creators of the community. In terms of me and Dave, that's the whole reason why we're doing this. We're the co-founders of the business. There's no outside funding. We're funding everything, out of our own capital right now and our own time devoted to the project. And we believe we have enough of a runway to get to where we can build a sustainable business, not as the controllers of the ecosystem, but as participants in the ecosystem, which will incentivize us to work on this project and maintain the core. And in doing so, in ways that are mission aligned with helping make it easy for people to build, control, and benefit from their own AI system, from your own AI system, not our AI system. And not just because we're saying that,
Yeah.
but because everything that we're architecting
It's
is
all
designed to,
MIT. It's like we're
yeah,
going to use the same code everybody else is using to build whatever we imagine to build.
yeah.
It's like, everybody gets the same foundation to start with, and we're just going to mimic what we're allowing everybody else to do with this system.
Right. And it's not just that because there's MIT stuff out there, but they're hard to build on because they're not technically architected for
Yeah.
you to build on them. Yours is not only what you're building is not only MIT licensed, but it's architected to make it really easy to build on top of
Yeah.
it.
At the end
Right.
of the day, you don't have to worry about the core at all. You just focus on what you want to do.
Yeah. Yes. So, we're walking the walk and not just talking the talk here. So, and then, but we still need to protect against ecosystem capture. And this is, what we just talked about. It's not only MIT, it's modular and permissionless. It's really easy to swap in and out components. It's designed for that. It's not like we have this system that's closed, but we allow you to do these other things. It's like, no, our system is completely open. In fact, our system doesn't work if other people are not building on
Yeah.
top of it and extending it and all those types of things. And we have, like we said, mission aligned leadership and Dave and myself. And then we have mission aligned investment because we're the ones that are funding this with both our capital and our time. And so that's it. I think we have a really good high level overview and starting point for this. But as with the brain drive system, this is meant as a starting
Yeah.
point. We want people to contribute to this. We want to hear what's been successful in other projects, what hasn't been successful in other projects. And the more the community is involved in this, the more that decentralization will naturally happen because more and more of the value will be created and captured outside of the core. And more and more of the voices will be the communities instead of Dave and myself. And I think we'll view ourselves as more of just stewards to make sure that Brain Drive remains mission aligned.
Yeah, and the important thing is not just, ideas coming from not just AI. It's because there have been tons of open source projects that have existed since the idea was first thought of. And so really, if anybody's sitting anywhere inside the open source community or seen one working, it's like you have something to offer right there. It's like, it's knowledge, it's experience.
Right.
So it's like just because you may not be well versed in AI, it doesn't mean you couldn't have a piece in this puzzle that where you can actually share your knowledge.
Absolutely. 100%. All right, great. So that's what I've been working on. In terms of anything else we want to, excuse me, talk about from last week before we start talking about what we're working
Um,
on for this week.
just a few improvements on, or actually, yeah, bug fixes and improvements. I can go straight into sharing real quick. Let's go. I believe that's going. Yep, there you go. That screen. Because we, of course, are getting ready for our open beta, which means we have to knock out a bunch of little things. Um, Not sure if anybody played too much with this and like that, or is it just me catching the details because I code on it all day long. But now we've lost, if you were paying attention, if I clicked on this, you would have seen some of the page builder icons pop up in here.
Yep.
And down here, these are all gone now. It's all been cleaned up. You don't have any of that functionality over. And so this entire screen now works as expected. And then if you come over here, what should be there is there, and now it's starting to clean up as well because it was just kind of the unified was losing track where it was at some point. But now that's cleaned up, and that was a big thing on that push control or that pull request right there from last week. So yeah, I'm pretty happy. We're gearing down towards the 7th.
Awesome. September 7th. That's our beta or developer beta. What are we, open beta,
Open
we're
beta.
calling
Yep.
it. Yeah. Do you just want to pull up? Are we starting to log issues on GitHub issues yet?
I
And yeah, go ahead.
I can pull it up because I throw things up there as I catch them and like that.
Yeah.
Let's go to share again.
Because I thought maybe like a good flow is like, what did we accomplish last week, like you did, and looking at the roadmap, and then what are any issues that came up from last week that we can talk about, and then we can talk about what we're going to focus on in the coming week.
True, I could definitely start to use this better. And I didn't even clean it up when I found stuff. Um, module display controls on the dynamic page. That's what I just talked about. The
So
container
that's
pages.
resolved.
Yep,
Okay,
that's
great.
yep. That I'll check on this. This should be resolved as well now. And incorrect oh no, that is not resolved yet. That one right there. See, it's a good thing we did this.
Yeah. Okay. And what is incorrect? So modules display controls on dynamic pages. So we had some of the controls for building pages on the page once it's already built. You
Yep.
resolve that. What is module container on pages not following themes? Oh, that's light
If you want
dark.
a dark theme or a white theme and the background of the actual container was not quite following along in certain circumstances, and I caught it when I was doing all my bouncing around. So I made a note of it, threw it on there. I just didn't take it off when I fixed it.
Right.
Um,
Okay, so
that
those two are both
Yeah,
resolved.
those two are fixed.
Okay.
I caught a situation when I had multiple modules and I put them on a page, and I noticed that instead of giving me modules 1, 2, and 3, it gave me 1, 1, and 1. So I wanted to check into that, and that's why I threw it up there so it would be there somewhere on paper.
Great. All right. So
um,
those are the issues.
yep.
And then what do we want to focus on for the coming week?
For the coming week, that issue. Um, user registration and login error information should be a piece of cake. AI provider, the Olama AI provider needs to be able to handle multiple servers. And then once I finish those three, I'm moving right into Bounce. I already have a plan for Bounce. I have two of them. I over the weekend I threw out mental energy. I threw out plan number two. It sucks, for lack of technical terms. But I don't think it'll call. It's a basically lipstick on a pig type solution, and I realized that while thinking about it. But I'm pretty good with plan A, so I want to
And
try to knock.
bounce is right now on our page builder. When you make adjustments or add modules to a page, there's a bounce that
Yep.
happens. Yeah, a
Yeah.
refresh like was what
What
it looks
yeah,
like.
what happens is in React you have renders, and that's when the code display or whatever you have on the screen displays. And when you make a change, the information has to flow from point A to point D. And when it hits into C and D, there is a slight gap in time that's necessary. And in that gap of time, it tells the renderer your control is the old information. And then when it gets to D, it updates and it goes, nope, you're the new information now. So that's what causes that little bounce. So it's the bounce issue is a matter of tracking the renders that don't belong there and cleaning them up.
Cool. All right. So that's the main thing. Really, the main thing is the bounce for this week. And if that's fast, then we're on to installer. And if not, we just got
Yep.
to work on it until it's fixed.
Exactly. Yep. I'm not
Okay.
leaving that thing until it's done. That's why it's like last week. I came Wednesday afternoon. I came up with a plan for how I wanted to solve bounce, and then Beck had that issue he wanted to pull me in on. And I was like, okay, you're going to stop and pause for a minute, and
Yep.
I'm not so I don't get mid into code. And I worked on Beck stuff.
Yeah.
And then it was like, okay, now we're gonna. When I start that, I ain't touching anything else.
Okay, and then so hopefully we'll be able to get Beck's issue resolved this week, which
Yep.
will allow us to just spend this week testing on chat with documents and
Yep.
polishing, but no new features and functionality for that. And then with same thing with Matt, hopefully he'll have, I think kind of whatever he has for this week, we just spend the rest of the next week testing and making sure
Yep.
it's bug free and all of that, and the code's good. And we don't add any new work for him other than that.
Yeah. Just work out little quirks.
Yep. And then Navaneeth, like we talked about, is going to be doing the next use case, which is email writing, which we know is another big use
Yep.
case for AI. Another thing that'll be cool, I think, is like once we have 6 or 7 of these use cases, then we can start putting out an overall score when new models come out. Like if a new Quinn model comes
Yep.
out, et cetera, we can see, how it performs across all of our use cases and maybe give a
Yeah, because
unified
there's
score
already
for that as
rumbles
yeah.
about Quinn coming out with a new one.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
So great. All right. So that's that. I'm gonna work on the video for I'm focused on launch stuff now.
Yep.
So launch collateral, like what do we want to be putting out? I don't think we're gonna like I still think, with the open beta, like we're gonna slow roll it a little bit. Like we'll post in a couple forums, see what the feedback is like, use that feedback to improve, and we'll sort of work our way up to like local llama and hacker news. You know
Yeah.
what I mean? Is like the main ones. But I think we can probably get a lot of feedback on Monday, from some of the smaller
Yep.
forums, use that to improve, and then like Wednesday or Thursday go out with like, a broader push.
Yep.
Um, cool. All right. Great. All right. So now I think the last two things on this call, I want to go through any documentation changes that need any documents that need to be updated from the work that we've done, prior, so we can use this to keep that up to date. That's always a little bit of a boring part. So we'll eat our vegetables. And then dessert is one big picture,
Yep.
topic, which for this week, I thought we could start brainstorming future roadmap.
Yep.
So we can start putting that together because that is one of our launch items is to have a good future roadmap of
True,
the
because when
things
a
that we're
developer
already.
stumbles in this, one of the things that not only is just what you've done,
Yeah,
but where are you heading?
right. So, all right. So let's just look at the documentation index. Let me, should
Well, the
have
first thing I will annotate on documentation, your
moving
screen,
plugins.
well, removing plugin, but your screenshot on your local document are all old
Yeah.
BrainDrive.
Well,
Okay,
all
just
the screenshots.
okay. Yep.
But my understanding is now if I take a new screenshot, as long as I name it the same thing and replace it in
Yep.
the folder, it should update everywhere,
Yep.
right? Okay, so I'll do that. Let me put that on my list. Uh, new screenshots for everything. Cool. Hold on, I'm just bringing up my documentation index, which I should have had ready, but lesson learned for next time. Okay. So, and again, just we're not going to go through in like, but just
Yeah.
off the top of your head, the plugin developer quick start guide. Oh, I still have the links from when they were in the old. But you know what
Yep.
like that should basically be the same as because that's handling it the new way
Yep.
already.
Yep.
Okay.
Yeah, I don't think it, I don't, not much of the documentation. I need to clean up the install guide
Okay.
because the install guide still has the old plugins part of that install process.
Okay. Do you think that's something I can do since it's
Yeah,
just
yeah,
removing
yeah.
it?
Yes,
Okay.
exactly. You're not even putting any additional data in. It's a matter of that when you do the bat file or the sh file based on the OS and
Yep.
it's running that. That's just removing all of that.
Yep. Okay. Actually, I'll put this on the Monday agenda so we can talk about it next week.
And update both the env file dev and env file example. Take it from the actual repo if you want, because those are both outdated now as well.
Okay. From the ins is this is in the install
Yeah,
guide.
yeah, the install guide.
Okay.
Because in fact, you know what? You might even want to, rather than have that information there, point to it. That way, we're not having to do this next time because we'll have changes coming into the env files periodically as just as we're developing. So instead of having an example, we just reference the code.
Okay. Um, cool. And then the plugin uh in
Oh,
root, the plugin guide in root goes away, right? Or does
yes,
that
yep.
become
That
more of
nope,
like an
nope.
explanation of what the plugin system is?
Um, You can do an explanation there. Let them know that when they install, it will be downloading the plugins that they will have available in the core plugins, as we like to call them, um, it automatically for them. So internet access will be required.
Yep. And that, this is all modifiable, right? You can make your own list of defaults eventually.
Yep.
Is
Actually,
it
you can.
modifiable now
Yeah,
or
it's modifiable now. You would just have to know how to do it, which will be some little documentation to come.
okay? This is all
Yep.
modifiable. And basically you own your deployments for your own plugins on your GitHub and how to install blah blah blah. And just links to developer guides, etc.
Yep. And then the backend install command is changed, and I will give that to you after the call.
Okay.
Not install command, sorry, run command.
Okay. Anything else?
Nope, that's it right there.
Okay. Let me just take a quick look through here. BrainDrive chat plugin still the same because that
Yep,
was always out.
yep, um,
Same bridges, everything.
yep. Nothing's changed there. In fact, on the chat plugin, we will probably have to update documentation when Matt is finished coding
Okay.
because that will have citations, that will have some tons of new functionality and improvements.
Great. All right. Anything else on documentation?
Nope, that should be it. That we've been mainly hardening everything and improving. not
Great.
not pulling.
All right. So, our goal for open beta is really to have the core, in good working order for
Yep.
people to start building on. some example plugins, not only for developers to reference, but also for users to use, BrainDrive owners to use in their BrainDrive. So it's functional.
Yep.
Even though technically, if you had the core, you could build, all
Yeah.
the functionality on top of it. And really just to show the vision for this, right?
Yeah,
The
and that's it.
technical architecture.
Yeah, it's like depending on whenever I finish Bounce and the installer, and in fact, when my wife goes away on the 7th, I think it's the 12th for a wedding, that's already I'm planning my time of to do a few little, I'll call them baby plugins to show potential. They'll be the plugins that you don't expect to see. They're not really a use case. They're more of a, hey, if you wanted to see how you would do tic-tac-toe with an AI, what that would look like type thing. Um, Maybe a little content generator with some guardrails. I'm not trying to do, I'm not going to write your email for you or anything like that. These are more just to open people's eyes and mind to what is capable with a system like this, because that's going to be the tough part. Is everybody is used to, as we've been talking about with our own developers, is everybody's used to OpenAI, Claude. There's the window. You have a little box. You type in your prompt, and you press enter, and then it spills out. But beyond that, people get lost.
Yeah,
People don't know what to do with. So therefore, to ask people to go beyond that step is going to be a difficult leap in itself. And that's why it's like I just want to provide a few things that when you look at what other things do, this is different. You could do anything. If you had a small little dream, there's no reason why you can't do it.
great.
Just have the dream.
Okay. What else is on your mind in terms of future?
Oh, now we get to the future stuff. Ooh, we have some cleanup. Especially with ripping out all of the local plugins that we had from testing and such like that, and moving the system up to where we are now. That is a code cleanup mostly just by me. I'm the only person who knows the code that well and knows, okay, I did that, for testing. I did this not for testing. Let's, get that out. Um, let's see. I would love to see some hardening for the future on the install, because the install process right now handles GitHub. It handles local. It needs to be really ready for the marketplace. And it's not just ours, but anybody wanting to create a marketplace. And there's no reason why we are already not there type thing. But
Can you
that's,
just talk a little just from a big picture level,
yeah.
what are we talking about?
I'll use WordPress as an example. They have a million plugins. There needs, if everything goes well, BrainDrive will be the same way. We will have a million plugins. There needs to be a way for the user to see the list of plugins available, of course, on a website or whatever. It could be on, and press the button install, or at the very least, here's the link to this plugin and copy it over. One
Right.
of the two things have to happen. Um, if we're building a plugin that allows you to view our marketplace or somebody else's marketplace, that might be the best angle, because then you could have a button click and auto install to the user type thing. You don't even have to have a separate website now, those kind of instances. But that has to be put in there, because that's going to be one of those critical things in my vision for success when we hit Katie. Because by that point, developers have gotten friendly with it. There's going to be people playing with some plugins. There could be, hey, let's shoot at 20, 30 plugins existing at this time. But the ability to see what's out there to easily, okay, that's available. Oh, install with one button click, just like, hey, running BrainDrive should be itself.
Yep.
And automatically you have the plugin installed. If the developer gave you a test page to play with it, they can install too as well.
Yep. Okay. Other things on your mind?
Um, we have the install process for microservices working on Docker right now, which is what Beck is handling. We would need to at least move to MCP as well. We don't necessarily have to be doing Python, but MCP will be the second one right there for us to target.
So,
Uh,
and once we have that, you can basically connect to anything with an MCP server.
yeah, exactly. If your brother built an MCP server or GitHub, it could be anywhere in that imagination stretch.
Right. Right.
uh,
Okay.
let's go to the next one. I just thought of it. Oh, um, and there with the idea. Oh, the installer. We need the installer to work both Windows, Mac, and Ubuntu.
Yep. Okay. So, I do think we've basically, when we started, planning for release, our vision was that we would build something that was ready for Katie Carter, which is our content creator that wants to use their own AI system to build and promote their content, to write and promote their content.
Yep.
Um, I think we've now changed that and we're saying we want BrainDrive to be the platform that developers build on top of, number one. And we want to be as good as possible for developers to build on top of BrainDrive. And so it seems like basically job number one is basically just to go back through everything that you've built over the last 6 months and clean it up.
Yep.
And that's a lot, right?
Yep. Yep.
And we'll discover more stuff as people and developers start building on top
Oh
of
yeah,
that.
yeah, yeah. Nothing's bulletproof forever. As soon as you get two people looking on something, expect to find something, like
Right.
that.
Right.
But
But
yeah, it's like,
basically, we want, I think, kind of like if we could envision, what success looks like here, to me, it's like when a new developer wants to build their own AI system and be a builder and an entrepreneur to be able to, sell products and services built on their AI system, et cetera. They see BrainDrive and they're like, wow, like this is not only is the concept amazing here, which I think we have now, and the
yep.
base, but like this is the cleanest open source project I've ever seen. It's super professional. Like we want this to be as good as anything else that's out there from an open source project for developers.
Yeah, because right now there's two paths to doing this. You have the one path that everybody has to pick now. Start from scratch. You have to develop the entire system, front end, back end. And because if you're like us, we're targeting Katie, if that your end user right there, you're not worried about all the developers at the end of the day because it's everybody's holy grail, for lack of better words, is Katie. You need an installer too. So as an individual or even a small team, that is a big ask right there and time consuming. Because when we were
Right.
even talking in November, one of this, you asked me the same question you asked everybody else, why not do your own? And I said time. You have it takes a ton of time to do this kind of stuff. Um, Now we've invested the time into doing it. Now a developer has two choices because we're the only people offering a complete open from top to bottom architecture for developing a plugin. So instead of having to do an installer, and instead of having to do the entire front end or the entire back end, you just come in. Here's my plugin. I want it. We'll call it. You've invented a Rubik's cube through using AI. That's been your plan. You've wanted to do it. You've dreamed it. Now you don't have to worry about the noise. You develop your little plugin. You can move the cube around. You can change the colors. You can do whatever. That's all you had to worry about. Now all you have to do is point, hey, install BrainDrive. It's easy.
Right.
And here's my plugin address. They download it and you're up and running.
Right.
It's what's your choice? 1 week of work or 1 year of work?
Yeah. Yeah. Okay, so the biggest part of that, what is code cleanup, right? I
Yep.
mean, that's going to be the biggest
Yep.
project. And what is your like? Are we thinking months, weeks, days? Like, what are we?
I'd like to see, I think especially like what I'm cleaning up now as we're going. I want to say a month to 2 months max right there.
Okay,
And I'm being on the long shot right there.
okay,
I want to say month, but I know when you get underneath there, sometimes it could turn into a little longer. So that's why I doubled it really quick, just in case. And
okay,
and like last week, nothing goes as planned. On Wednesday, I expected coding one thing, and then somebody has an issue that I need to take a look at. We'll
right,
encounter bugs while I'm cleaning up that
yeah.
I need to address. So hey, being honest.
And do you think Matt or Beck could help with any
Yep.
of the code cleanup?
Yep.
Or okay, all right,
Yeah, especially because the first thing will be is at least documentation wise, splitting up the entire system. so that it comes down to chunks and pieces of basically puzzle pieces that come together and seeing the workflow. And then you can start dividing up, okay, Matt, if you want to take up how the installer process, here's all the code involved in the installer. Now go through it and clean and pull out the old remote install code and make sure that only the new stuff is remaining and then test it through.
Yeah. Okay. Um, Along with code documentation, along with code
Yep,
cleanup. Okay. All right. And then, I think this is not only with BrainDrive Core, but it's also with chat with documents
yep,
functionality with the plugins, the default plugins that we have.
yep.
So,
Each plugin will be its own little, like that's where especially like other people can get in is like take a plugin, find all the bad code in there and clean it up, get it working, test it.
right. And I think that um, we don't need to add a lot more plugins,
Yep,
like we have the base core, we have a few plugins, and I think it's much better for Brain Drive and our resources that we're focused on, you and I, and the people that are working with us directly to focus on really solidifying the
yep,
core and then really solidifying and having amazing defaults, for
yep.
people to use and also to see as an example and to build on top of, since there'll be MIT licensed open source plugins as well.
Yep, that's like people come up with their own case studies on what they want to code and all like that. That's why it was like for me, it was a matter of initially it's here's like we said, our core chat. That's what, hey, at the end of the day, you're going to chat with an AI. We make sure that's working well. And then the only other thing I can think to do is like, here's my imagination. If you pushed AI systems a little bit just to get your imagination going
Right.
for, like that, because like you said, because then we point to the core, our attention, our time is cleaning that up. And the better that is, the better we offer our services to both developers and Katie
Yeah, because
and
the
users.
developers, the easier it is
Yep.
for the developers to build on top of this, the more they can build for the non-developer users,
Yep.
right? Okay. So, I think um chat with documents, RAG, and brain drive memory, like having a well-functioning RAG system that is easy to customize for your specific knowledge bases and use
Yep.
cases, along with an AI system that you own and control, that's the foundation of everything,
And
right?
yeah, we should point out chat. It already because we Matt added CAG into it already, where you can
Yeah.
upload a document and it's not trying to be a RAG, so let's not confuse it as we're talking like
Yeah.
that. I'm more for the viewer on that one.
Yeah.
But you can put a document in there, has all the information that you want to have a chat with and to figure out and maybe use it for something. We're like that's what CAG is basically, a
Yeah.
context augmented generation. And we already have that coming in there. So it's
Yeah.
like you really can't ask for anything more. And the difference between us and everybody else on this aspect is we don't have noise.
Yeah.
It's very targeted, very focused, and you just move along.
Yeah. So Brain Drive Core is text based. We're focused on text.
Yep,
We'll allow like developers go wild with audio, video, whatever you want to
yep,
do, images, all that. But we're focused on the text because that's the foundation of everything.
yep,
And we're focused on chat with document extraction, context, augmented generation, chat with documents, which is project based, so you can set up specific knowledge bases for you to ground your chats in, and then once we've polished that, brain drive memory, which is our attempt to build a memory system that is learning from all of the interactions that you're having with your AI system.
yep,
And we do have a V1 of that already
yep,
that Ben can go back to. Um, so so I think really um, in terms of the functionality that we want to offer to users, I think there's plenty of work in what we just talked about.
yep.
And I think where a lot of other projects get lost is they don't ever polish that, which is the main thing that people want. So they have a million different things that you can do, but like you can't really do the main thing that people want to do really
They
well.
chase pennies.
Yeah. And tailoring this system so it serves you and your specific business use case or personal use case, whether that's having a brain that has all the knowledge for your enterprise in
Yep.
it that people can chat with, or it's creating an AI girlfriend, on all the way on the other end
Yep.
of the spectrum. It all requires what we just talked about, right?
Yep.
So that's where we focus. Um, and then everything else that that's the functionality we focus on, but then everything else is helping developers, enabling developers to build on top of this. And then the one other thing that I think's involved in this is that we haven't talked a lot about up to this point is sharing.
Yes, we knowledge
So,
bases and such.
well, so yes, but I'm thinking more like, okay, let's say so every part of ideally in a Nirvana world, every part of your brain drive, you should be able to share with another brain drive owner. Okay?
Yep.
So plugins, right? You
Yep.
just send right now we can make this better and improve on it, but it's shareable right now. You develop it, it's on your GitHub, you give somebody the link or the file, and they go to town with it on their brain drive, right?
Yep.
Okay, so that's sort of our core atomic unit, right? The thing that everything else is built off of.
Yes.
Okay. But then there's pages, right?
Yep.
So I've taken multiple plugins and I've built a workflow, right? So this writes an article for me from start to finish, right? It does the research. I have one plugin that does the research. I have one plugin that does the outlining. I have one plugin that takes all that and writes the article. And I have, human checks built into that process, for example,
Yep.
right? And I've got that set up on a Brain Drive page. And I'm Bob, and I want to share my page. That Jane sees my thing and is like, oh my God, that's amazing. How do I do that? The ideal scenario is you don't have to because I've already done it. And let me just share this with you. And you click a button, and that page with all the plugins in it and everything is now available in Jane's Brain Drive.
We're pretty close to that. It takes some code, or I'm not saying it's done, but we're already because we already when you install like register a user, it already goes out and grabs plugins and like that. So we already have the mechanics and the code in place to mimic the functionality. We would just have to put together that package when you say share with Jane. So you need the communication between you and Jane, whether it's email or whatever. Or are we using one of the blockchain messengers for decentralization? Because those are starting to become very prevalent nowadays. Um, and yeah, you press share, it sends Jane the information. Jane gets the information. It gives her an opportunity not to auto install, but rather, here's what Dave is sending you. Do you wish to install these? And she goes, well, yeah, I trust Dave. So let me
Yeah,
install this. And next thing you know, she has all of your page set up, all of your plugins installed that you had sent her, and she is now ready to go right from that moment.
right.
So we're halfway there. We would have the communication aspects of that, and then taking the functionality that we has exists, but packaging it a little different to accomplish that task.
Okay. And then the same thing, we want to have a prompt library
Yeah,
eventually. I
yeah,
think
yep,
that will also be part of the functionality that we're building into the core of the prompt library,
yep,
right?
yes.
And those should be shareable.
Yeah, sure. Yep. Share prompts. In fact,
Share.
I think there would probably be an entire list of things at some point we'll sit down and like sharing plugins, sharing prompts. Um, I think
Sharing everything.
yep.
Okay. Now, the last piece of this, and I'm maybe talking out of my ass here a little bit, excuse the French, but what I've been reading as I've been investigating this a little bit more, it seems like there may be also a way if you want your AI to be connected if you're fine with your system being connected to the internet, that there can be like a library of these and you can call the library. So you don't actually have to like copy everything. You can just like in the code, you can call this thing and and that thing can have specific permissions around it. It could have a payment associated with it and you're managing, let's just say it's a really sophisticated prompt.
Yep.
You're not giving the prompt,
Yeah. Oh,
You're
I see.
giving a call to the prompt, and and that handles the payment.
Mhm.
Here's a dollar, every time I use this prompt or whatever, and it pulls it into whatever plugin or page or whatever you want that to be in.
Yeah, I read an article on that several months ago it was specifically at the time dealing with LLMs, of course, that missing component, because right now
Right.
with LLMs, you have to hand the whole thing over to somebody and you lose control.
Right.
This
Right.
was leveraging that. So yeah,
Yeah.
that would just be that communication aspect built into
Right.
it, because then it doesn't have to leave your system. Your system's up and running. It's being leveraged. So when they make the call in, of course,
Yeah.
they can utilize your system resources, but at the same time, you're being paid for it as well.
Right.
And you don't lose your knowledge then. They get the results, but you keep that core knowledge that made that result possible.
Yeah. Okay. So sharing is, something I think for future.
Yep,
Let
sharing is
me
caring.
sharing is caring. And that's the viral network
Yep.
effect that we want to build. That is the communities and not one central company.
Yeah, 'cause you can't tell me a single instance where the ability to share with another person hasn't been paramount to success.
Right. Okay. So that's that. Let me just see here. All right. I think that's good for today. We're coming up on an hour anyway.
Yep. And you just
So
froze. Oh, there you go.
Oh, yeah. We do these calls every Monday at 10 a.m. Eastern time. So we encourage you to join the live calls. And also, I post these on the forum with summaries after each of the calls. So you can look out for that later today. We welcome all comments, questions, ideas, contributions. Just chime in anytime. Our mission here at BrainDrive is to make it easy to build, control, and benefit from your own AI system. And with that, we'll see you next week.